Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the From Adversity to Abundance podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Bateman, and I'm pumped today to have with us Mike C-Roc. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm phenomenal, Jamie. Thanks for having me, man. I am in the building with you right now. It's exciting, fired up, and I want to express gratitude for having me, man. Thank you.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, you had me on your show, and I appreciate that. So for the listener out there, Mike C-Roc is a serial entrepreneur, luminary. He's got a ton of experience in lending and, man, a visionary, all kinds of things I could say about you, Mike. Why don't you add a couple things on here? What are you up to today?
Yeah, ever since I was a 5-year-old kid, I always wanted to be a celebrity. You thought I was going to say gangster. Ever since I can remember,
Right.
I always wanted to be a gangster.
There you go.
No, but I had this thing in me. I came from a lot of brokenness, Jamie, and I have this thing in me that I always wanted to be a celebrity. It's like just well known, and
Sure.
when I walk in a room, I want to light the room up. And I don't know where that came from, but right now, I mean, that's what I do. I try to light the room up. I want to elevate everyone around me. I want to elevate myself. I call myself an elevator because that's what matters to me, and I'm obsessed with it every morning when I wake up. So
that's awesome.
With all the stuff that I do, entrepreneurship and speaking and all the things I do,
yeah,
it's all centered around that.
It's centered around your mission of that. That's awesome. Yeah. And the time we've gotten to know each other over the last month or two, it's always a positive energy, and I love it. So I can't wait to dive in. I know you also have your book we can talk about later, and all kinds of things you have going on. So let's jump into your backstory. You mentioned, I think you mentioned 5 years old. Let's jump into, either your childhood or after that, but let's walk through. I mean, the podcast is about overcoming adversity and getting to abundance. And just for the qualifier real quick, I don't pretend like anybody's finished with all their adversity and now that they're, retired on the beach and it's just abundance. That's not the real world. We definitely keep it real on the show. But the fact is, as you very well know, Mike, mindset and a lot of other, behavior and things can play a huge role in overcoming adversity, whether that's health, finance, relationship, spiritual. There's all kinds of adversity, and getting to abundance and living in abundance, which I know is where you are really focused and helping people get to. So let's jump back. Where do you want to start in your story?
Well, I mentioned 5 years old because in kindergarten, I was the MC for my kindergarten graduation, and I had the old Bob Barker mic with the, there was a long mic and had a cord, and I would hold the cord in his hand, and I worked the stage, man. And so I guess I wanted to be a speaker at a young age, and I knew that, but I never waited for validation from anyone else. A lot of people are waiting for validation in their life to be who they want to be. And for some reason, I just never did. I was just very stubborn in that manner, but that doesn't mean that I didn't have people trying to hold me back and in abusive situations at times. Growing up as a kid, there was a lot of brokenness, a lot of depression and anxiety around me, a lot of conflict and relationships that people didn't get along. A lot of it was taken out on me and my brothers and sisters in different scenarios. And I wrote about this in the book, and I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail, but nonetheless, I was always, my mother was always one to lift me up and encourage me. And, I don't remember my parents ever together. So I was, she was a single mom for years. And my dad, on the other hand, was more concerned with money than anything. It was a money thing, and making money and then keeping money and talked about it all the time. And so I had a dichotomy. My mom didn't have much, but she was a very loving, encouraging. My dad was more about work hard, money, and money over a lot of things. And it actually, there was a lot of sacrifice that went along with that because relationships were damaged because of that. So, growing up, seeing all that and seeing that dichotomy, I just knew that I wanted to be successful, but I wanted to help people because I saw a lot of brokenness growing up. And, so that's where like my life started, was really getting through. And it felt like a gauntlet of brokenness to get to a place where I could have more control and be more self-determined and not be in an environment that I didn't want to be in. And as a kids, we don't pick our environment.
True.
That's true. So I'm very, very conscious of that right now, Jamie.
Yeah. So it sounds like for the most part, and again, it's all related, right? If you have financial struggles, you're probably going to have some that's going to put strain on your relationships and maybe even make your health go down or whatever else. It's all related, right? So we're not pretending it's compartmented entirely, but it sounds like what you're saying is mostly it was relationship struggles, and then the dichotomy around the view of money and what was important there. But did you struggle? Did your family struggle? It sounds like your mom struggled financially. Did you have financial struggles growing up, or was it mostly like brokenness around relationships?
No, it was both. You know, I lived with my dad for 3 years from about 8 to 11, and he had money, and we were, you know, doing well and going on trips
Mm-hmm.
and dinners and doing all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom, on the other hand, was always paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. It felt like that all the
Got it.
time, you know.
Gotcha.
But as a kid, you know, you're growing up in that. I knew that I wanted nice things. When I got older, I wanted to control my own destiny. I wanted to be able to do these.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to be in control. You know, if that makes sense. Because I didn't feel like I was in control when I was younger. So it was both relationships and the financial thing. And then the health thing too, because we had a lot of addiction in the family, a lot of mental health issues. You know,
Gotcha.
I saw it all. I saw pretty much it all. When you talk about finances, relationships, and health, I've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, everything I'm doing going forward is really designed around up-leveling, elevating those things for myself and others.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and it sounds like you were able to, you know, keep money in perspective. Not that you don't think money is important, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, you know, money certainly has importance, right? But it sounds like you were at a pretty early age, you were able to determine that money wasn't the end goal for you. You wanted money, you wanted nice things, but it really was more about control of your life and your own destiny. It was bigger than money in a sense. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you know, I think that people with wealth have a I don't want to say addiction. They're controlled by having.
Mm-hmm.
They got to have, right?
Sure.
I don't want to be in that situation. I want to be able to have and not have. I want to be able to like, you know, if I want to put money to something, I want to know that I can go get more money. I want to know that, talking about abundance, I want to know that there's tons of money on the planet. I just need to do what it takes to get the money and be willing to do so and know how to do so. And that's, to me, that's more important than having, you know, I invested a lot in my businesses, Jamie, and myself. Not as much as I haven't invested as much in real estate as a lot of people have, but I've invested in myself, my businesses, and the ability to go make more money. So I'm a business myself. Yeah. Right.
No, I love that.
And that's just a different way to look at things. Sometimes I think I look at people that have real estate. I'm like, geez, man, I should be doing that.
But, well, you know, there's tons of ways to make money. And I mean, a business, if it's going well, is a fantastic way to make money. And so I definitely, and our listeners is an entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur. So we definitely want to dive into, you know, how your businesses are set up and you know, you said you are the business. So I definitely want to dive into that. Let's walk through just from, you know, maybe teenage years up through today. I know that's a long time, but, you know, kind of highlights or lowlights as far as your own personal journey. Let's just continue to walk through.
Yeah, I played college football at a Division III school, and I never drank alcohol until I got to college. No, right before college, after I graduated high school, I just stayed away from it, or it was around. I just never drank. I was so committed to being a football player. And when I got to college, coming from a small town, and you know Salisbury because you're from this area. It was party school, party central, and I saw girls that I had never seen before. We didn't have, by the way, when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones. We just had like when I was in high school, we had just gotten cable, right? So I was from a small town, and I never saw parties and the girls that I saw when I got to college. And so to me, it was like, you know, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, I'm like, wow, this is like fantasy land. So I got off track, and it led down the road of, you know, starting to party, drinking. One thing led to another. I'm smoking pot. I quit the football team after 2 years. And then I got into partying, and before you know it, it was all focused on where's the next party, where are the girls, where's the party, and I just lost focus, and I was going down that route for a while, and you know, and there was addiction in my family, so I felt to the point at some point I was like an action junkie. I always wanted to be around people. I needed action. I didn't want to be by myself, and so that got going for a while, and then all of a sudden my friends started leaving after they got out of college. And I'm left behind with the people that were just partying and all the influence. Now, I wasn't the best person to be around either, because I was, you know, I'm right in there pulling everybody else down with me.
Right.
And so talk about dark times. That's some dark times that I dealt with in my early 20s.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like you were like addicted to alcohol or drugs, but you were more addicted to the action, you said, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know, man, because when I would go out, I couldn't imagine not drinking, and
Mhm.
I would drink a lot. I
Yeah,
drank to get a
sure.
buzz and go. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And then the drugs came into play, and your party
Hmm.
drugs and weed, and
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever admitted to being an alcoholic or an
sure.
addict, but I
Right.
definitely had the tendencies and the characteristics.
Got it. Understood. All right. So you're in college or in that phase of your life, and then your friends graduate and they're taking off, and and then what, you just realize that you're not going anywhere, or like what's
Yeah,
happening
yeah, yeah.
mentally for you at that time?
I had a moment. I was in home sales. I got in the restaurant business first. Then I realized like that business is like that's the business is cash. You get off
Mm.
late, then you go to a
Hmm.
party, and that's like that's not the right life.
Yeah.
And I saw it as a dead end. So then I started talking to a guy, and he invited me into sales. So I did in-home sales for 9 years actually, but it was in-home sales. I felt like after my friends were leaving, and I'm like, what's the purpose of what I'm doing? What's really the purpose? And this is like a dead end. It's like
Hmm.
there's been moments in my life
Hmm.
where I had this feeling of there's way more inside of me, man. What am I doing?
Hmm.
So I had that moment, and I realized it was a really dark moment. My friends were leaving, and I met my wife, thank God. When I met my wife, it gave me some purpose of like, okay, now I have a reason. Because obviously I wasn't doing it for myself at the time. I was partying, and I didn't have any like nothing to
Hmm.
do it
Yeah.
for, obviously, because I didn't value myself at the time. Right.
Sure.
So when I met my wife, I got myself together, and I started having purpose, and I wanted more, and I wanted to up level. And I started going on a journey of up leveling
Yeah.
and chipping away at that life I
Yeah.
wanted. Right.
Yeah.
So
That's really good. I mean, it's a theme that comes up on the show is, yes, you got to do to get over adversity and get through hard times. Yet certainly you got to do internal work and focus on yourself, right? But at the end of the day, that only goes so far, and you've really got to focus on others. And you said your wife. I mean, you now had something bigger than yourself, right? Or other outside of yourself to focus on and to serve, and so that gave you purpose, and that made you a better person. It sounds like, which is awesome. So okay, so you start to realize like you're meant for a lot more, right? Is that fair to say?
yeah, I mean, I've had many moments like that in my life, and I
Hmm.
started thinking like, what kind of I'm playing such a small game? Why? And I go analyze it. Why am I
Hmm.
playing such a small game? What is it?
Yeah.
Then I
Yeah.
find out that like, okay, well, let's go for a little bit more. Let's go for a little bit more. Or eventually, I started thinking, let's go for a lot more.
Hmm.
And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wanted to commit because I feel like Jamie, when you set your intention, this is a formula I use all the time. I
Hmm.
set my intention and I get really clear on what I want and I
Hmm.
commit to it.
Hmm.
Intention. I write a
Yeah.
story out. I write like a very vivid vision of what I want to do. And that
Hmm.
leads to what I pay attention to.
Hmm.
What I pay attention to validates, I only pay attention to things that validate my story that I
Hmm.
create that with my intention. From there, it creates existence. So I started figuring out this formula that all I have to do is set an intention. That's going to
Hmm.
lead to what I pay attention to. What I pay attention to is going to validate my story for my intention. And then that's going to create my existence in my universe. It's going to validate
Hmm.
to create existence. That's
Hmm.
when I started causing and creating my own future, my own world. We live in a universe that we all physical universe that we live in, but we all
Yeah.
have this we're the center of our own universe, so to speak. And you
Sure.
have two choices. You can start having your universe that you're creating, right? Or what most people do is they allow other people and outside influences create the universe they're living in. Then they're
Hmm.
unhappy, they're just depressed, anxious, and they
Sure.
don't know why.
Yeah.
So that's what I figured out.
Love it. No, that's awesome. I mean, so what would you say to the person who says, well, that's great. Mindset's fine. Having a positive attitude's great, but that's not living in reality or something like that. There's still,
That's their reality. So
okay.
so that's the thing when somebody says that's not reality. Well, they're just speaking about what they believe, their reality, and that's fine. I
Sure.
don't listen. You can believe that if you want to,
Sure.
folks. But at the end of the day, like you're not going to shape my reality.
Yeah.
I know what my reality is, and I'm going to tell you what mine is. You're going to tell me what yours is, and I guess what who's going to win? The one that's most certain.
Yeah.
So when I hear that shit, I'm just like whatever, man. Like
You don't have
I don't
time
have
for
to
it.
believe what you believe.
Yeah.
You can believe what you want to believe, but I can tell you and show you results from doing things the way I do. Now, you do have to have action and behaviors, right? To accomplish
Absolutely.
Them. Well, the reason this works is that what you intend to do and you pay attention to, it actually moves your physical body into behaviors centered around the story that you tell yourself, the intention that you have. Then you get the results. So it's not manifestation and comes, you think about it and it just happens. It's everything in your body starts going in that direction.
Sure. And like you said, there are behaviors, the behaviors follow, and that is what ends up creating that reality. So I love it. Yeah. I used to use a lot of, on a lesser scale maybe, but like on a lacrosse field, I'd use a lot of, I just envision, okay, tomorrow during this game, I'm going to do this. And it would happen quite often. And it was I don't want to, it was amazing to me. It was like, wait, I literally pictured exactly this play, and this was exactly how I was going to do it. And then I did it. And, would that have happened without me envisioning that? I don't know. Probably not.
Well, no, because your vision, when you're visualizing something, that's your thought, right?
Yeah.
Thought leads then to emotion.
Yeah.
And then you can feel it. And then you from that know what effort to put forward to accomplish that thought.
Sure.
So if you do it in that order, that's how it works. And most people don't realize that they're just on autopilot. And a lot of people are having thoughts that are coming from the media, from their surroundings and environment. And then they're getting emotions from that stuff instead of their own thoughts. And then their behaviors reflect that. And that's why we have a lot of sheep that are going in direction. Like we got COVID stuff coming out now again. And I don't know how many people, just because that came out on the news, they're starting to wear masks again before they even have a mask mandate.
Right. Yeah.
So now I don't know what people believe, and I don't apologize for what I say. I just say what I believe and what I think.
Hey,
so
man, this
is crazy to me to see this, but I know it's not crazy. I know why people are doing this. I know the formula.
Sure. Well, and the other thing I was going to add is with, if you've envisioned something happening, whether it's on a small scale or big scale, then when it starts to happen, you're actually ready for it. You can behave better, really. You're not surprised or scared. How's this happening? It's like, no, I've already been here mentally. And so I think that adds a level of, in a sense, like relaxation, and you're able to perform better when those elements kind of all align, if you will. So let's focus on your businesses. I mean, as far as, you mentioned your wife, so you obviously got married, and, pick it up from there and let us know how did things unfold? I know you did a lot with like mortgage lending. So career-wise, after you got married, how did things go?
Well, I was in home sales for 9 years, and eventually I saw some of my buddies doing mortgages and real estate. And I'm like, man, I want to do something different. I hate what I'm doing. So I made a jump and got my real estate license, did that for a year and a half. And I saw some buddies that I was sending my business to making money in the mortgage business too. And they weren't showing people around houses. And I didn't want to show people around houses and be a tour guide. So I'm like, you know what, let me do the mortgage part. So I got into the mortgage part and hit it off right away. The first year I've ever broke six figures. This is when I was younger. And every year kept getting better, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 million. Like it just got better and better and better. Now the money was coming and I was gaining, doing gaining, right? But I was not fulfilled. Was not happy. I felt like I still had a bigger game inside of me. And it wasn't all about the money. It was about like, I have this ability to elevate people, and I'm playing such a small game with it. So 4 years ago, I decided to start building a brand, because I realized that if I really wanted to impact and play the game that I wanted to play, the size, I needed to get known. And how big I wanted to go was, a conversation I've had with myself. Do I want to go nationally? Do I want to get known globally? Then I looked up and I saw CNN had a thing on, by the way, I watch both CNN and Fox, in case anybody's wondering to hear me CNN say, I was watching, it just happened to be CNN. I remember clear as day. And they were talking about UFOs. And this is back in 2018. I don't know if there's aliens. There probably is. I don't know. But I said to myself, if there's aliens, I want the aliens to know who I am and what I do, an ability that I have. And it was like a mind expansion exercise. And I just started thinking bigger. From that point, that was my intention setting moment, right? Then I started paying attention to things that could get me known. And then I started having behaviors and decisions that were leading into that. My efforts were leading into that. And all of a sudden, things just started to expand. So I got out of the mortgage business this past April, actually. I started an agency a year and a half ago called That One Agency. That One Agency helps entrepreneurs do what I did, because I've been on over 900 podcasts in the last 3.5 years. And the reason I did
Wow.
that is because I saw the power, Jamie,
Yeah.
of podcasting. And what it does, there's like 5 major things that podcasting does. And I wanted to help other people do it after I've done it because I saw the power in it. And most people don't understand the power of it.
Sure.
And so that agency helps entrepreneurs. It helps celebrities, athletes. We run the gamut with our clients, but we help them get more attention and help leverage that attention.
Yeah.
So that's
I
what I'm
love that.
focused on right now.
No, it's awesome. I mean, it's perfect for our audience because you're able to help entrepreneurs and business owners and executives who are listening to this show. So now, as far as the money didn't satisfy you, right? So it sounds like you wanted to do something bigger. What was the impact you were really? What's the impact you're really trying to make?
Well, let me clarify. I like money. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it's got
Right.
to be with something else, right?
Yes.
And
Yes. Sure.
yeah. So the impact for me is, I really, like I said, I want to be an elevator. I want people in my
Yeah.
environment, when they come into my environment, they can't help but do better, be better,
Yeah.
elevate. They want to feel like they feel like they can run through a wall, right? And so I center
Yeah.
all my businesses that I have through this mission of creating unstoppable people to live in the life of their dreams. And every morning I wake up, that's all I'm thinking about is how can I do more? And I know if I do more, the money will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I want to be known for what I do. That people need that. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and by the way, this, when you do these kind of things, when you can help people cause and create a future for themselves and be unstoppable to doing so, it's one of the most attractive things out there.
I love that. Yeah, I'm finishing up the Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start with Why. It's been around for probably 10 years and it's just really good. He was just talking about Martin Luther King and how, Martin Luther King didn't have a plan for how to implement, how to create civil rights or how to implement and execute this plan in the US, but it was huge what he did, as far as just inspiring people. And so it sounds like on some level it's a similar thing where you're trying to inspire people, and then those people are going to take that inspiration and implement that in their own lives, or as far as operationally execute from after you inspire them. Is that
Well,
what?
exponentially impact others. So when what I do for someone goes out, they may affect 5 people, and
Yeah,
eventually there's an exponential effect. So, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not just about mindset. It's about also, I'm an expert in performance and scaling businesses as well.
Okay, okay,
And so I want people, like, if there's entrepreneurs listening and business people listening, the main problem a lot of entrepreneurs and business people have is lack of clarity. And they
sure.
enter chaos and confusion enters into their lives, in their home life, which comes into the business, or the business comes into the home. Now their
Yeah,
relationships are impacted,
yeah,
marriages, the kids are impacted, and it's all centered around lack of clarity. So what I've done is I've created a framework to get clarity for people in their businesses and in their life, that if they just go through this framework that I use to assess things, it clears up things. And as soon as you get clarity, all of a sudden you feel lighter, you feel like a weight comes off of your shoulders, and you
sure.
can execute effectively without emotion.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm leaning into that as well with this, because I hate to see families broken up because businesses aren't going well, or there's just
sure.
chaos and confusion.
Right. No, that's really good. I mean, especially nowadays, just with everyone working from home, and if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you can talk about work-life balance, and it's important to set boundaries for sure, but it's all related, and it's all, like you said, family life and business life and your physical health, your mental health. It's not inseparable. It's all going to impact, the other factors for sure. So, okay. So that's another thing that you offer. Is it business coaching, or how does that work?
Well, no, it's more of a consulting situation. I have a company called the Waymore Group, and we consult for equity and fee, and help businesses. And we do mergers and acquisitions and with businesses and real estate. And that's one of the things we put together is a framework, and we call it the Waymore method. And it just makes
Nice.
things better, man. It's just, clarity is so important, and people
Sure.
do not understand when they're living in chaos and confusion. They just don't realize, you don't even see it's going on,
Yeah.
and they wake up. Well, if they sleep at all, a lot of entrepreneurs aren't sleeping. They're
Sure.
stressed out. Their
Yeah.
relationships are in shambles. They don't know where their next deal's coming from. They don't know how to pay their employees sometimes. I mean, there's all kinds of bad
Yeah.
things going on in business, and there doesn't need to be, is my point. So yeah, we
Sure.
do, we help that with that at the Waymore
That's
Group.
awesome. So from sounds like 2019 approximately is when you really had a big turning point, or, you know, kind of really had some clarity about yourself as far as what you wanted to do as far as your businesses go. So, um, what's the growth been like since 2019?
Well, the growth has really come from since 2019, my personal brand. And
Okay.
I realized that personal brand's important, but at the end of the day, eventually you need to start building brands that you don't have to be the face of.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Because that brand can become a living organism and it can grow and it can expand and run on its own. And
Yeah.
that's comes down to setting up the proper mission and core values for the company, the proper product or service, dialing in the branding and the messaging, and then getting that thing to be built upon a solid SOP so that it can run on its own and you can get the
Yeah.
heck out of it. And so I still want to have my personal brand going out, you know, doing my thing, speaking and helping and all that. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, I want to build brands and help companies build brands
Yeah.
at scale and become household names and then build wealth for people that way.
Love that. It's awesome. You're just making an impact in so many ways. And like you said, I mean, a lot of especially newer entrepreneurs, they may not understand that, you know, it's almost counterintuitive. You think, well, I'm the CEO, I'm the owner of this business. The harder I work, the better this business is going to go, you know, and more valuable it's going to be. Now, granted, hard work is critical. I'm not knocking hard work, right? But the truth is, the more you're in that business, the more that business equals you, the less valuable that business is when you go to sell it, right? So, personal branding aside, if you're if your whole thing is a business coach or a therapist or, you know, something else where it's you, and that business isn't that valuable. I mean, at the end of the
Well,
day,
no, 100%, Jamie. This is why, like, I thought to myself, I could be C-Roc, the business consultant, and have a consultancy, right? And I've gone back and forth with this in my mind. But at the end of the
mhm,
day, why wouldn't I start the Waymore Group and
mhm,
I have three other founders and
mhm,
create a framework that they could use as well? And the business can be designed around other people using the framework. I can come in like a dentist. You know, the thing gets me. I got a buddy that's a dentist. We golf
yeah,
together and this and that. And I'm in there, and the lady cleans my teeth. She does
yeah,
the X-rays. She does all
yeah,
this, the flossing, and then he comes in with
right,
his one thing and he goes, "Looks
yeah,
good," and he leaves. And I'm
literally,
like,
I
"Chris, where are you
just,
going, man?"
yeah, that just happened to me a couple of days ago. Exact
But
exact
that's
same
good.
thing. Yeah,
But that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Like I'm
sure,
supposed to go in.
absolutely,
Here's the framework, guys. Run this. This is the policy. This is a procedure. Do this. Have questions. You need something. You need second set of eyes. Whatever. I'll come in
yeah,
and I'll do my thing. But I don't need to be in it because
yeah,
there's a framework already there. And all you
it's
do is
awesome.
follow the blueprint. And you're good.
Sure, I love it. So, how many businesses do you run right now? Can you even answer that one?
Yeah. I have that one agency. I have the Waymore Group. And what else we have? I mean, I have like in the Waymore Group, we're doing mergers and acquisitions, so we're getting
Yeah,
pieces of companies in there.
gotcha. You
Um,
also have the boot camp. I think you told me about.
that one
Is that
agency has consulting in it for brands
gotcha?
and really small business owners, entrepreneurs that are going on podcasts to get them to leverage that attention. But
Sure,
that's all under that one.
got it. Understood. So, talk about personal branding. I mean, you know, not everyone either wants to do that or sees the value in that, and maybe they shouldn't. You know, it's fine. There's not always a one size fits all, but what have you learned as far as what's effective with personal branding?
Authenticity. Authenticity, man. You need to be authentic. And in order to be authentic, you need to know who you are. You know, a lot of people
Sure.
identify not with who they are, but what they do.
Mm,
And I've interviewed over 500 people, and the majority
hmm
of them, the most challenging times of their life is when what they did fell apart,
mm, yes.
and then they lost their identity because they were identifying with that vehicle they were in, not who they are.
Yeah.
So to me,
Absolutely.
personal brand comes down: who are you? Not what are you doing, but who are you? Peel back all the
Yeah.
layers, and what that means is what are your values? What are your non-negotiables? What are your beliefs?
hmm
What is your mission? And when you identify that, then you put your stake in the ground and you promote the hell out of that, because the important part of that is you don't worry about with people leaving and not want to be around you, not want to hear from you, because those are the people that would hold you back if they stayed in there because of your core values and your mission.
hmm
You got to be okay with those people leaving. And then the right tribe will come in and you're building a personal brand around what you truly are, who you are, and those people align with you and it makes everything better. So that's
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned this on your show. I'm not sure, but, and your show is called "What Are You Made Of?" Your podcast, but we had a guy, Josh Kalinowski. He was a professional pitcher, baseball player. Had him on the show,
I
and
just had him on last week.
okay,
Yeah,
awesome,
yeah,
great guy, great guy. I think I may have connected Todd with him, but anyway,
yeah.
he his whole thing was, his adversity, his major adversity in his life was he got injured and he couldn't play in the major leagues anymore. He was no longer a baseball player. So, and it crushed him. I mean, that was his entire identity. And honestly, I could kind of relate on some level when my college lacrosse season was over. It was like I was so wrapped up in what I did, like you just said. That's who I was. That's who I thought I was, right? And then it's like, now what? Who am I?
Yep.
And it can rock your world. I mean, some people might think if sports is not that important or whatever, but no, but that's who I was, and that's who Josh Kalinowski was. So
That's
yeah,
a decision you made, though.
absolutely,
That was really a vehicle for you
That's
to
who I
do what
thought I
you.
was.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where everybody gets jammed
Yeah,
up, man. It happens all the time.
100%. I love that. So, okay, so before we get to my rapid fire questions and we talk in a little bit more detail about what you have going on today, what are your you mentioned you got to have clarity, you got to have principles, you got to have non-negotiables. You've probably mentioned a couple of them already, but what are some of yours? I mean, what are your principles? What are your non-negotiables?
Yeah, so I have a core values, and it's an acronym, VITALS.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
the V stands for vibes matter and emotions are contagious. So I understand that whatever vibes I'm bringing and the emotions that I'm bringing, they're contagious.
Yeah.
And I got to be conscious of that because I don't want to affect people in a negative way. And also understanding to stay away from people that are a problem in that area. The I stands for imagine, no lids, endless potential. I don't ever want to put a lid on myself or others. So I remind myself with my language, my thoughts, my behaviors that I don't want to put a lid and think that there's a limit to anything because we don't know what our potential truly is. The T is take 100% responsibility, despite even someone thinking that there's no way I could be responsible for what happened. I still figure out a way of what could I have done differently to affect the situation, being at cause at all times and not an effect. The A stands for all setbacks are rocket fuel. That goes to the law that I wrote in my book, Rocket Fuel Law, about converting setbacks and becoming unstoppable, being blessed and thankful about setbacks and discouragements because they're actually useful. The L stands for leadership starts with me. That our leadership is so important. And the thing is, you won't lead other people until you lead yourself. The leadership, I always remind myself that it has to start with me first. I got to lead myself first, or everybody's going to look at me like I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
And then the S is success is the only option. Like we get what we need to get. We go get it. Like there's another option to quit, or, the only time you quit is if you find yourself doing something that's not in alignment with your core values or the mission. So that's what I go by with my mission, in combination with my mission. And it gives me very, very easy decision process, clarity.
That's awesome. So who do you must have coaches and mentors yourself, right? Who do you look up to? Who do you follow?
So for the longest time, when I first got started, I read the 10X rule, and Grant was a mentor of mine from afar. I immersed myself in his content. I just vibed with what he was doing.
Sure.
And so what I did was I read that book, and the thing about it, the lesson I got out of it, not think big, 10X, everything. It was when you think big, because I already was thinking big. I already had this big vision. My issue at the time was the people around me were discouraging and not believing and not seeing the vision and invalidating. And I just was like, man, am I freaking crazy? Is there something wrong with me? Well, when I read that book, it had one point in it, and it said, you're not the crazy one. The people around you are just confused and they've given up, and they're reflecting that upon you. Go push the pedal down. And that's where I got the saying, thrust is a must, because I read the book Rocket Fuel. I said, like, no, thrust is a must. I'm going to go forward. And if they leave, because I was always concerned, like if I push the pedal down, I might push people away from me.
Yeah.
And I was like scared of that. And I'm like, hey, if they leave, it's because they were going to hold me back. I can't have that. They'll always come back if I keep committed to my mission, if they're meant to be in my life. But I do not, and everybody, this is very important. So many of us have suppressive people in our environment that are holding us back from our dreams.
Yeah.
Because they've given up on theirs. And if you say that, oh, I can't just cut them off and confront them about it because they're my family, or it's a good friend I've known since I was a kid. It's my wife. It's my husband. It's my mom. It's my dad, sister, brother. Doesn't matter. They're stealing from you. They're stealing from you. So that's what I realized. And when I realized that, I was off to the races. And then I just watched him, and I watched some people that he was surrounding himself with. And then I started looking at other people. Right now, I'm really, Ty Lopez is coming back into social media. And I'm interested in Ty because he's read so many books, and he's very, very unique. And I want to be more unique myself. So I'm kind of paying attention to what he's doing and how he approaches unique subjects when he brings them up.
Sure.
So I'm kind of watching him right now. And so I've had mentors, absolutely.
That's really good. The other thought that came to mind real quick was, if you're living in fear of somebody leaving, or getting outside of your, sphere of influence, I guess, you're limiting your own impact that you're going to have on others, right? You're not then going to be the best version of yourself. And you're actually, you mentioned they're stealing from you. Well, because of that, you're stealing from what you'd be giving to somebody else, so it's like your impact is lessened. So you're kind of stealing the impact you'd be making from that impact you'd be making on others.
Well, yeah. And then I've never had somebody that's doing better than me ever hate and then discourage me. It's never been that way.
Sure.
I pay attention to that too.
It's people who are maybe jealous or something.
Yeah. I'm not taking advice from someone that hasn't done what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I love that. It's really good. All right, you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yep, let's go.
You look nervous. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, man. You've done this a bunch of times. All right, you ready? What is one thing that people misunderstand about you, Mike?
I would say that I care so much that I'm willing to just push through their bullshit. They think a lot of time. I mean, a lot of times this is rapid fire, so I'll stop there. But yeah, that's it.
They misinterpret your passion.
Something like that. I mean, I'm not going to buy people's bullshit because I know it's just a story they're telling themselves.
Sure. What's one of your biggest failures, regrets? Some people don't like those terms, but something if you could do it over, you would do it over.
I told my son this, like I would have focused on building wealth and money and getting things straight with that prior to chasing women and parties when I was in my, 18 to 22 range.
Sure.
And then, understanding that, look, women will be there when you get yourself straightened out and on the right track, and you'll probably have a better choice of women. Now I'm blessed because I've been married 20 years and I couldn't have found a better woman. So it worked out. But still, I would have loved to have, I don't know. I just feel like I this is rapid fire, so I'm gonna stop there. But I think I could have, I think I wasted time, and now I'm playing catch up. You know what I mean?
You had more of a short-term focus at that point. It sounds like, which I think most people do, but
I would have changed that.
Sure. If you could go back, and you already touched on this, but if you could give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Yeah. Get your money right first, and then get your relationships.
Awesome. If you could have coffee or a drink or something with any historical figure, who would that be?
I think it would be, there's so many, man. Hold on. Let me think about this for a second.
They could still be alive today if that helps. If
I had coffee with someone, damn, man. I've had, man, I don't know. I've had a lot of coffee with a lot of great people already. So it's hard to figure out, man. Let me just say Ronald Reagan. I don't know. I would just say Ronald Reagan.
I like it. All right, here's one. If you were given $10 million tomorrow, Mike, what would you do with it?
I would I would put it in some kind of passive income vehicle and create as much, I would actually get some of it, put it into some risk stuff, but I would make sure that I have income coming in off of it for the rest of my life. That's what I would make sure of.
Sure. Love it. Back to your business or any of your businesses, what's one of your main challenges? What's one challenge that you're facing in your business right now?
Main challenges?
Yeah, every business has challenge. It's never, you're never done with your.
No. I mean, trust me. I know, that everybody, especially me, I have challenges, but I'm trying to think the main one. I want to move faster. Okay. I want to move faster than conventional wisdom says. I know, I understand that you can't give birth to a baby, but to an adult, I'm sorry, but sometimes I want to. So I think that's the biggest challenge for me, is just being patient. And the other thing, cash flow management. when I got out of the mortgage business, I'm not making the amount of money that I was making. Okay. When I was in the mortgage business and it was going good. And so sometimes you have to pull back to get and sell assets. Your net worth takes a hit to get runway to build something bigger. And that's where I am right now personally. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the vulnerability. It makes sense. Let's see, what's one piece of advice you'd give someone starting out in your career? Say with personal branding, you already said authenticity. Anything else you'd advise somebody if they want to build their personal brand?
Yeah. Get on podcasts and do at least one a week. Very important. And then take that podcast and repurpose it in clips all over social media, blogs, write a book off of it, transcribe it, take quotes from it, put the quotes out there, and become omnipresent through podcasting.
Love it. It's awesome. I can tell you, I get a lot more hits when I go on other people's podcasts. I get a lot more kind of feedback from people, as much as I love my own show. But all right. So what does financial abundance mean to you?
You know, a lot of people talk about having, building wealth and having assets that are coming in and passive income coming in and all that. One thing that concerns me a little bit with passive income is complacency. And I feel like if I had passive income taking care of everything I needed, I'd be concerned that I'd get complacent. So I kind of like that exhilarating adrenaline feel when you need to go get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it goes back to, you said you were, maybe addicted to the action back in college. Maybe it's just more healthy, version of that. But
yeah. like, hey, Jamie, when I go on vacation, I can't sit by the pool. I can't do it. It's just not me. Like, I don't know how people do that.
Yeah. No, I think most entrepreneurs are wired in a similar way. You mentioned your book, and you might have mentioned another book, but what is, one or two other books you could throw out there for the listener?
I'm going to shout out my man, Dan Martell. He had a book recently come out called Buy Back Your Time. It's a phenomenal book. That's a great one. And then, I got so many, man, but
yours is Rocket Fuel.
Mine's Rocket Fuel, Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable. Grant Cardone wrote the forward for that book. It's a really good book to read too. It's really quick and easy. I don't want to piss off any of my other friends, so I'm not going to say any other books because I don't want to get anybody get mad at me for not saying their book.
Nice. What else? Anything else you have going on in your business these days?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now, and this is a good lesson for everybody. So I have that one agency where we take entrepreneurs and get them booked on the line podcasts consistently, right?
Yeah.
And prepare them for it, create one sheets, press kits, and brand, and help them with their brand. And one thing in my mind is like, I got to do all these other things too, right? I got to help them with social media. I got to help them with this, and that. So I have all these product offerings. What people need to understand is, and this is a problem because I'm a variety guy. Like, I like more than one things in my life, random, except for my wife. Okay, let's be clear. I only want one wife. One woman in my life is plenty. But my point is that I want all these different things. And I know that here's the thing. The way to be successful is to keep the main thing and build it until it's running by itself and growing by itself. And then start to add things in, supplement to it. But if you don't do that and you start getting dispersed with your attention, everything's going to suffer.
Absolutely. What's one question I have not asked that you wish I had? Anything?
Yeah. I mean, what's my handicap in golf?
What is it?
Well, I used to be a 3, but now I'm probably a 12 just because I haven't played, but I could get back down there, but I haven't played much lately. So I just told you that just so I can remind myself that I got to get out there and play.
Yeah, it's right. You've put it out there, right? Now you're accountable to yourself. Mike C-Roc, this has been awesome, man. Where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, go to the number one agency.com. You can see our agency there. Any entrepreneur, you all should be getting on podcasts on other people's shows, then start your own show after that. It is imperative. It's a must. If you're the face of your company, that you got to get out there. And it's the easiest and most efficient way. So the number one agency.com. And then Instagram is the best way to follow me and stay in touch with me and see my content. It's Mikey C-Roc, Mikey C-R-O-C.
I think you've got 1.5 million followers on Instagram, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's up there. Well, awesome, my friend. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks for stopping by. This was a really, really fun and inspiring chat.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. This is great. And to the listener out there, thank you for spending your time with us, which is your most valuable resource. Thanks, everyone. Take care.